has the need for change at City Council been greater. The need for fairness been more apparent. And yet on issues as diverse as the need for a ward system to elect our city councilors, increased public transit, control of mega development, we have not seen change, leadership, or fairness. What the NPA and Philip Owen have provided at 12th and Cambie is at best silence on these critical issues, at worst, unfairness. Let me take just one moment of your time tonight, if I may, to briefly touch on one of those issues, fairness. Fairness insofar as our tax system is concerned. Philip Owen is proposing an increase in your taxes. That is your taxes if you're one of the 7 out of 10 homeowners in the city of Vancouver. And that wouldn't be bad enough. That would be livable if the money was to be used to improve civic services. But instead, Philip Owen and the NPA will use that money to reduce taxes for the richest 3 of 10 in this city, including his own mansion in Shaughnessy. I am inviting you to deal with the issues, study the issues, and make up your mind between now and Election Day based on fairness so that we can all have a better city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Valerie Jerome, your 2-minute opening statement, please.
Thank you so much. I'm running for the Green Party because I want British Columbians, and in particular Vancouverites, to know that in fact we have got to bring limits to growth. The planet is not growing. And yet what I hear from the other parties that are running in this election is densify, 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 and that means growth. Our water supply is limited. We have water rationing in the summertime. The water quality is diminishing. And our air is becoming so polluted that the instances of asthma in our school children is escalating every year. I'm a school teacher in Vancouver, and I've been teaching here since 1964, and I see enormous differences for the children that I teach. Most of my students are bringing bottled water to school. They won't drink from the water fountains. And yet we continue to think we can bring more and more people into the region. In the mornings, I wake up to the radio with the sound of where the backups are on the highways coming into Vancouver. That's the source of much of our air pollution in this city, and yet we want to bring more and more people here. We have densified on False Creek, and with each of the units that have been built, we have, in fact, 2 parking garages per living unit. It's time that we brought an end to the densification of the city. It's time we had a moratorium on demolitions and began to look after the welfare of our citizens.
Thank you very much. We'll now hear the opening statement from County Focal.
Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for having me here tonight. I'm pleased to be here. I'm running with VOICE, Vancouver Organized Independent Civic Electors, and the reason that organization came into being was precisely to meet a need being expressed by a lot of people and being felt by me that the traditional parties were not delivering over to the expectations of the people as they had come to be expected in the past, and that there was a vacuum, and we see that vacuum at all levels of government. So this new grouping came together. It's not true that we're totally and absolutely independent, although there is a body of independence to the separate people in that they can have their own line, but there is also a basic policy. And it's not correct, for instance, that the VOICE position on there being blurbs or burbs or whatever you call them for buses on the corners, that's a VOICE policy. That's a particular policy of one candidate. People can have individual positions. However, as far as transit is concerned, we have a bottom line. As far as density is concerned, we have a bottom line. We don't agree there should be densification in the way that powers that be are telling us the citizens of Vancouver have to accept it. We support the idea of basement suites. We support the idea of infill housing to accommodate the growing need of being able to house people. Fundamentally, I think what we're trying to do with the Voice organization is present to the voters an alternative. We're trying to present to them a group of people who are saying our basic concern is quality of life, and we expect to be able to deliver that by looking on an issue basis.
Thank you very much. Councillor Pugh, your opening statement.
Good evening. This has been the most underhanded, dirty civic campaign I've seen in 32 years of campaigning. The NDP Coalition's public statement that the Nonpartisan Association is going to increase taxes by 30% is an outright lie. As chairman of the Finance Committee for the last 3 mayors, I ask you, the COPE NDP Coalition say that you can trust them with your money. Who are you going to believe when it comes to finances and budgets? Who do you think you can trust? The coalition, which has no record of financial management and are being manipulated by the provincial NDP, or the Nonpartisan Association, which has a long, long record of sound financial management in the city of Vancouver? How the user fee for garbage will be implemented and the rate structure has not yet been determined by council, but preliminary projections indicate it could be $8 per year for the average property owner, if it's implemented, in a far cry from the 30%. I think that Vancouver voters are tired of COPE and the NDP manipulating financial figures for political gain. Our commitment to you is to continue our record of keeping tax increases at or below the rate of inflation. And by the way, this year's increase was a 0% increase. The COPE member of council, in fact, voted against protecting the taxpayer and didn't support us on a 0% tax increase. I don't want to see the interference and intrusion of party politics in the affairs of Vancouver. I don't want to see a duplication of the dishonest type of provincial government we have in Victoria running the financial affairs of the city of Vancouver. On November 16th, I would ask that you support the Nonpartisan Association candidates for council.
Thank you. And now, William Kay.
Thank you. Well, we all recently watched the U.S. elections, the charade that it was. And the reason why the modern two-party system is such a charade is because both contending parties basically have the same ideology, and both are representatives of the big money. And presumably, if the big money in the United States wanted to do away with a two-party system, they could opt for a one-party system, and the American voter would not be out much choice. In the current Vancouver civic election, we have something almost a little more degenerate. This is what political science professors call a 1 1/2 party system. And that is characterized where there is a dominant party, which